Good morning to all. Hope you all are doing good and staying safe at home. Welcome to a new session in English. In today's session, we are going to study in detail about simple, compound, and complex sentences. Based on the structure of sentences, we can divide it into three. I think in the previous classes you would have already learned about the types of sentences. Do you remember the types of sentences? Yes. Assertive sentence, interrogative sentence, imperative sentence, and exclamatory sentence. But here we are going to study in detail about simple, compound, and complex sentences. Before we are going to analyze a sentence based on its structure, let us recapitulate clauses. Have you heard about clauses and phrases? Or do you know what is the difference between clauses and phrases? A phrase is a group of words that does not make a complete sense by itself, whereas a clause is also a group of words with a subject and predicates, and it is usually a part of a sentence, but it may or may not convey a complete thought. These clauses we can divide into two: main clause or independent clause, and subordinate clause or dependent clause. What do you mean by independent clause? Yes, from the name itself, it is clear that it is not depending anybody or anything there. So, a clause that makes complete sense on its own is known as the main clause or independent clause. Whereas a clause that does not make a complete sense on its own is known as a dependent clause or a subordinate clause. So, for studying simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences, you should know what is a dependent clause and what is an independent clause. So, now we are going to study about each type of sentence based on its structure. First one, simple sentences. From the name itself, it is very clear that it is very simple in structure. So a simple sentence has one independent clause, that is, it has a subject and a verb, and it gives a completed thought. For example, Rehan opened the door. You know, Rehan is a subject, opened is a verb. So it's a simple sentence. It's a combination of a subject and a verb. Sometimes simple sentences can also have a compound subject. See the example. The table and chairs need to be cleaned. Here you know the table and chairs, it's a combined subject or a compound subject, and need is a verb. Simple sentences can also have a compound verb. For example, the boy smiled and nodded. So you can see that the boy is a subject, smiles and nodded is a verb, it's a combined verb or a compound verb. Second type of sentence based on the structure is called as compound sentences. Compound sentences are the combination of two or more independent clauses joined together by a coordinating conjunction. And you can see here fanboys. It's an acronym given for this coordinating conjunctions which we are commonly using for making compound sentences. F stands for, A stands for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. So with this coordinating conjunctions we can make compound sentences. See the example. Here we have two simple sentences. Rehan opened the door. That's the first sentence. Second one, he looked outside. We can join it by using a coordinating conjunction to make a compound sentence. Now see the example. Rehan opened the door and he looked outside. So now we joined both the simple sentences using a coordinating conjunction, and so we could make a compound sentence here. And here the two sentences have two independent clauses and they are joined by and. The third type of sentences based on the structure is complex sentences. What do you mean by complex sentences? Complex sentences comprise of an independent clause and a dependent clause. What do you mean by independent clause and dependent clause? A dependent clause cannot stand by itself, whereas an independent clause can stand by itself, and so it is called as a main clause. See the example. When he won the awards, everyone cheered. See the first clause. Is it dependent clause or independent clause? Yes, it is a dependent clause. When he won the awards, it is not giving a complete thought, or it is depending on another part or the main clause there. And see the second clause. Everyone cheered. Yes, it is an independent clause because it's having a subject and a verb, and it can stand by itself and it gives a complete thought. So you can say that it is a combination of a dependent clause as well as an independent clause. So it is a complex sentence. See the next example. Now that I have saved up, I can buy a bike. See the first clause. Now that I have saved up. Is it giving you any complete sense or a complete thought? No. So it is a dependent clause. See the second clause. I can buy a bike. So this clause gives you a complete sense or a complete thought. So it is the main clause or the independent clause. So again, it's a combination of a dependent clause and independent clause. Hence the sentence is a complex sentence. I think complex sentence is very clear to you all. This slide gives you an image of complex sentences. As you know, a complex sentence contains one dependent clause and one independent clause. A dependent clause cannot stand by itself. It depends on an independent clause to help it be part of a complete sentence. Whereas an independent clause is a sentence that can stand by itself. See the example. If I don't find my ticket, I won't be able to go to the concerts. Which part is giving you a complete sense? Yes, of course, it is the second part. I won't be able to go to the concert, right? See the first part. If I don't find my ticket, yes, it is not giving you a complete sense. So it is a dependent clause. It always depends on the main clause there. Here in this table, you can see a list of subordinating conjunctions which we are using to make complex sentences. After, although, as long as soon as, because, before, even though, if, now that, once, since, though, unless, until, when, whenever, where, whether, while. So these are the subordinating conjunctions which we are using to make complex sentences. Just do remember one thing, only use a comma when the complex sentence begins with a subordinating conjunction. Now let's revise all these three sentences once again. First one, simple sentence. A simple sentence consists of one clause that has a subject and a verb. A simple sentence puts across one simple idea. For example, the owl hooted. Second one, compound sentence. Compound sentences contain two or more pieces of information, and pieces are linked by connectives. For example, the owl hooted that flew away. And third one, complex sentence. A complex sentence is used to put across more detailed ideas. A complex sentence contains one main clause that can make sense on its own and one or more minor clauses that are linked to it. For example, the hungry owl hooted loudly, then flew away as it spotted its next meal. I hope the three types of sentences based on the structure is very clear to you all. Here you have an exercise taken from your grammar textbook. Kindly do the exercise in your textbook. Check your answers with the help of the given answer key. I hope simple, compound, and complex sentences are very clear to you all. You will receive a worksheet shortly with more practice questions in it based on your grammar textbook. Thank you, my dear children. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.